Hey everybody, Matt from the Rational Rant. Today's video is going to be about the Dakota Access pipeline and some idiocies that I've noticed in the handling of this situation. For those who haven't watched the news recently, the protests at the pipeline have gotten huge. We now have celebrities and thousands of people protesting the building of this pipeline. Now, for those who don't know, the Dakota Access pipeline is an oil pipeline extending from North Dakota all the way to Illinois. It is controlled by Dakota Access LLC, and it was basically their brainchild. Now, the biggest conflict that is occurring and why these protests are happening is due to the disregard for the Native American land. They basically want to build this pipe all the way through the private Native American land and disregard A, the people that live there, and B, the environments that they're intruding upon. If anything was to happen to this pipeline, it would poison the fresh water source that the Native Americans have, and also it would totally wreck the environment, as with any oil spill. But my biggest issue is the idiocy of the PR perspective that Dakota Access is taking. Because if you look at the way that either an investor would look at it or just someone from the outside, they are taking all this negative press for something that they could control. If they just move the pipeline away from this area and away from this fresh water source, it would have never been an issue in the first place. But because they have to make the straight shot through the Native American land, they're literally turning this into basically an armed conflict. At this point, we have, you could say, militarized police and private security forces that are hired by Dakota Access in order to control these protests. And it is, I'm not going to say it's becoming a bloodbath, but, we're having dogs sicked on the protesters, we're having fights break out, and it's finally reaching a head. Now, once again, one of my critiques is that Dakota Access is taking negative PR for this whole thing. And why don't they see that? There's a different way that you can construct the pipeline, and you can make it to where you avoid the Native American land and just continue on. And I'm not condoning the construction of the pipeline. I am all for green energy. But if you're going to construct one, is it really worth all this negative PR just so you can make a straight line instead of, curving the pipeline and avoiding the Native American land and this big fresh water source? I'm pretty sure it's the Missouri River. But I just don't get it. All they have to do is change their construction methods, and this whole protest thing, this whole national scene would go away. Poof. And they wouldn't have to deal with all these issues. I could only imagine the investors of Dakota Access LLC being enraged and furious because this is all negative PR. And if more people are exposed to this conflict, I believe more people are going to side with the protesters. Now, from a business perspective, I would imagine that, it would be easier to divert the pipeline. But the fallout that is going to ensue from this press is going to be insane, because even if they manage to continue the construction of the pipeline and they go through Native American land, they're still going to have to face the fallout that happens after. What if something does happen to the pipeline and it happens to be in the exact area that the Native Americans live? I mean, what if it doesn't even happen there? What if it happens somewhere in Illinois or somewhere in Missouri or in South Dakota? All these places could be devastated by, an accident with this oil pipeline. Now, that is kind of besides the point. But it's an oil company, so you can't really expect them to care about the environment. Their whole objective is to make money by selling oil. So, of course, they're going to be against green energy. Of course, they're going to be against saving the environment. And they're going to want to cut costs wherever they can. And my big guess is that this is the biggest way that they found to cut costs, was to just make a straight line through the Native American land, regardless of what or who lives there. But what I think, once again, the biggest idiocy is they didn't take into account the negative PR that they'd be getting. Months of protests, months of being on, the TV, the national news circuit, and it's not in a positive light. So I would have expected that it would have been easier for them to divert the pipeline than to just continue construction how it is. But from what I see, what they're doing is ineffective. And I think that it's costing them more by doing this than by just diverting the pipeline and changing where it would go. But that's just my perspective, and honestly, they're pretty fucking stupid. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, stay rational.